Hello, welcome back. It's September the 24th and I'm back doing Spelunky Daily challenges after having a bit more time and also repairing my PC where there was basically a blaze, but we won't go into that. Alright, that's an exaggeration. As you can see, not very many people have played Daily Challenge today for some reason. Which is a shame, and so hopefully beating all of these people will be fairly easy because Rich's score is embarrassing, but maybe it's a hard challenge. It's been a while since I've done a daily challenge, and as I say, part of that reason is things breaking, but there's actually a better reason for that as well. For the next 10 daily challenges, I'm going to try and take on slightly more important topics. So this is going to be an interesting thing because I have to play the game and also talk about things that I care about a little more, or that I think are perhaps more than just curiosities. And as I'm sure you can read, you've already seen the title on this video. Today's video is about feminism. And what that probably immediately does is turn you and maybe a lot of other people off. In which case, am I going to be able to trigger these? Maybe this video isn't for you in that case, because quite honestly, I don't know if I have as much energy as some other people do when it comes to arguing my corner on this issue or talking about these things. If you've watched my philosophy video, you might know that a terrible philosophy video. I studied philosophy at university eventually, in the end, after doing all sorts of confused things in my life, which is not a life I'd recommend, but never mind. And you may know that I did my dissertation on feminism, and I perhaps didn't realise it at the time, but to some degree, I suppose I'd always been a feminist. Oh dear, oh dear. Spiders don't like feminism, do they? You might notice there is a bit more of a different tone in my voice, and I don't know, perhaps I'm feeling defensive. Very briefly, before I get on to other things, yes, I think maybe perhaps I always had a history of some amount of feminism ever since I was a kid. I don't know why this is, because it wasn't something that was actively ever talked about in my family or promoted. I did grow up with two sisters who were quite independent and who were very good to me and who I got along very well with, but no one ever talked about it. It wasn't a subject that ever came up or was actively promoted. But I do have memories certainly of being frustrated by gender relations and gender expectations ever since I was tiny, since I was about 5 or 6. The particular example I suppose I can think of is somebody in my class saying boys are like this or girls are like this, and me thinking that seems a strange thing to say when you don't know all the boys or the girls, and if you haven't yet done an inventory of all the boys or all the girls, how can you know? Because surely they're all different. I don't know, maybe that's a very naive thing to think, but somehow I don't think so. So I think I carried that attitude with me to some degree growing up, but I tell you what, I was probably very sexist in many ways, and this is only something I think I came to realise in time. Looking very hard at, I'd better just kill that spider before I do anything else, because that's just going to make my life more complicated. Lovely. Sticky bombs. Oh dear, why did I do that? Why am I throwing a key at a snake? Nobody knows. But yes, maybe this was something that was always in my background to some degree. But no, there were still advantages I very much enjoyed being a guy that I didn't realise I enjoyed, because when you take things for granted, you don't think about it, because why would you? Because that's the nature of taking things for granted. And that's hopefully, going to be something that I'll hopefully be able to get across in this video. But yes, in my Clearly I want to buy a shotgun and kill a dude, don't I? Clearly that's what I want to do. In my 20s, I came to better understand the subject and better understand it, I think, from a historical perspective and academically. Now, what I've done so far is, unfortunately, I've just randomly rambled generically about this topic, and I haven't actually given you some specifics or really a description. And that's because I'm actually being a bit evasive about this, because that for me is the hardest part. Trying to get people to understand what it is without rejecting it, because people, for some reason, the words radical and the words feminist have become associated. I don't generally find feminism very radical, and a lot of people just immediately react in a negative way to the word, which you may have done as soon as you saw the title of the video or heard me mention it. And you know what, you wouldn't be the first or last person to do this. And this is the situation that I'm in. And perhaps if I'm good enough at doing this video, it may even change someone's mind somewhere. But I've got this funny feeling I'm going to be preaching to the converted. Anyway, still skirting around the topic. You may be aware of women. You may have seen women around, and you may even know some women and perhaps know a little bit about them. Women are, I think, actually slightly more than half of the population of the planet, although actually there is a bit of a weird thing that's going on where they don't tend to earn as much money, or they actually don't tend to own any property at all compared to men, which is unusual, isn't it? It's a bit funny because quite a lot of them, and they certainly, all these mothers and things seem to be working all the time. So it's kind of odd that they don't have much. They seem to have a division of education and maybe even treatment and respect and representation, you know, even in democracies. How many countries can you name that have had a woman in charge? Can you fit that onto 2 fingers? Have any of those countries had more than one woman in charge at any point in there? Have they just had one? I guess Britain had Margaret Thatcher and you know, so, you know, that's nice. Token lady represented there. It's good, probably. But, oh dear. It's fine, I've actually got 4 points of health. So, I should feel relatively relaxed. But this topic is a lot more taxing for me, and I've got to say, there is something happening, I think, to my peripheral vision, where I'm just not looking at things quite as much. Yeah, you see what I mean? Dear oh dear. I was concentrating on the spider that was on the thing that I didn't even have to worry about. Could have fallen on spikes. It's fine, it's okay. He said, possibly. But I don't know, perhaps you haven't noticed or thought about these women very much, because that seems to, oh dear. Seems to be a historical trend, you know, these women that are around. I mean, for a long time, I guess, if they weren't represented in government, then men had to represent them, I suppose. There's other people had to represent them, which, you know, that happens sometimes with you know, slaves or other disenfranchised bodies, is other people make decisions for them. You know, we do that for children, don't we? So that's fine. That's okay, I guess. No. Universal suffrage, which is everybody voting, is really only a 20th century idea. It's only something that's been happening for around 100 years, unless you go to some countries where it's more like 90 years, or some countries where it's more like 80, or some countries where actually it's a shockingly recent concept. But that, I mean, that's probably okay, isn't it? There's probably a reason why that happened. Because, I mean, if oh dear, I meant to go back the other way. Women aren't represented, then they probably didn't need, I don't know. Obviously trying to play a little bit of a devil's advocate here. Thanks for killing the snake, pal. Don't really have enough bombs to, oh, that's fine. A terrible chill runs up my spine. It's not good, is it? I don't like being cold. Hello. But you know, side effect of this is women kind of got mythologized instead. Oh yeah, that was a safe one. So we certainly have lots of, you know, myths about women, don't we? We have, let me try and think of a few. Who's the woman in the King Arthur legend? Morgana? I mean, she's, alright, you know, she's quite bad. She's sort of evil. But, you know, there are other myths like Pandora, who opened, the first lady, the lady who opened the box that kind of ruined everything by opening the box. All right, well, she's a bad example. Lots of women in Greek myth. Doesn't just have to be Pandora. You've got Helen of Troy, she was really pretty and she started a war, so she's probably not a good example either. I'm sure there are some women in myth who aren't actually an example of troublemakers. I can't seem to actually think of any right now, but you know, obviously tales told by men, but I'm sure those men sort of didn't have any problem with women. I don't know. And the thing is, if you start putting all this stuff together, after time, and maybe after some time or after not so much time, you start to paint pictures of things that aren't actually very pleasant. You end up with a group of people who are second-class citizens, who are poorly represented or not represented, who suddenly are perhaps suffering quite a bit, and also in an age before contraception existed, when, you know, sex is fun. For women to have sex and have fun tends to have more consequences than for men. Yeah, you gradually build up a picture of not great treatment for a great period of history. And perhaps that changes your judgment somewhat. Ooh, didn't mean to throw that, but that's fine. No terrible consequences there. Yeah, fall on that. No, it's kind of, I'm just killing stuff for no reason. It's probably slightly angry. This topic is making me a bit more anxious than usual. That's fine. Like I say, you can hear it in my voice. One of the things that I tried to do was prepare as much as possible, which I don't usually do for these. But I just put some ideas together in my head and checked that I knew some stuff, and it turns out I do know some stuff. I know a few things. Yeah, I really wanted that guy to do that, and he did. So everything's good, because that makes my life a lot easier. And generally speaking, as a guy, my life has been quite easy in a number of ways. Actually, no, that's a little bit rubbish. My life has been hard in a number of ways because of some aspects of my background and my family have made my life a bit difficult. But like I say, statistically, I'm much more likely to earn more money and control more property, and certainly far likely to be a victim of something like, say, sexual violence. An interesting question to ask people, even in the modern world nowadays, is what do you do when you go out, or before you go out, maybe to some clubs or bars? What do you do to ensure that you'll be okay or not attacked by anyone? Or what's your plan to avoid sexual harassment? And if they say, I don't have a plan, or I don't think about that kind of thing, that's a good way of testing whether that person is a man. Because I bet if you start asking that question to most or any ladies you know, people are going to have plans. People are going to say, oh, well, you know, I don't get sexually harassed, but actually I don't do these things, or I don't go to these places, or I just go with a buddy, and quite quickly you start to realise, why did I do that? I didn't mean to put that there. I meant to put it there. Here's a side thing that I'll tell you as this thing repeatedly topic just goes crazy, is my left leg has gone dead and I can't feel it. So this is a terrible return to Let's Plays where I'm trying to talk about something that I very much care about and play the game and just keep use of all my limbs. Which is just, yeah, it's all going wrong for me now. What else? Are you a fan of music or the Oscars or media generally? Maybe you like films and the Oscars, and you have a favourite actor, or maybe you have a favourite actress, which is a useful category to have at something like the Oscars, for example, because if you didn't have that category, then which women would win Oscars ever? I'm pretty sure my bleepy thing was going off somewhere, so I need to find the hole. And I don't know where it is. I have a feeling it was back near the top, and I'm not having a great time looking for this magic hole. So what I'm going to do is try and take the dog to this hole nearby. Time's really going on now. And pick up the gun that's here. And retrace some steps. Oh my goodness. But yeah, you probably have sort of the editor lady winning some Oscars and then no other ladies ever. Because come on, what do women win Oscars for? Because what? Oh. I'm just gonna chuck bombs everywhere right now. Actually, oh dear, that's not what I wanted to do. If I can lead the ghost away far enough, I can get around past it. Otherwise I'm going to feel so disappointed in my... You know what? I've got a lot of ropes. But the thing is, let's go back through the history elements I was mentioning for a short moment. Oh God, the desperation. What am I doing here? Oh, it's up there. Yeah. Okay. How am I? Oh, how am I gonna do that? Oh dear. Yeah. Historically, you know, I'm sure actually you could probably argue that there have been famous ladies in history occasionally. Like there was Joan of Arc. She did something. Or what? You know, like clever. I'm sure. Oh no. Oh, how am I going? No, I've got. Oh, this is so fiddly. I hate the ghost. He's such a jerk. You know, there was Hypatia, she was a lady philosopher, so now that there was one token lady philosopher, we know that ladies can do philosophy, and they can fight, and there's always a token lady somewhere to do something, I guess. Oh no! Oh dear, oh dear. Oh, there's no ropes, Forgot that there was no ropes, and also didn't see that there was a tiki trap because I just thought there were going to be spikes, and I was really happy there weren't spikes. Actually, there were sideways spikes. So definitely, you know, it's really good that Catherine of Aragon commissioned a book about women's education in like the 1500s, and then it took to 1792 for Mary Wollstonecraft to I think, 300 years after Columbus, to write The Vindication of the Rights of Women, where she suggested that women maybe could be educated and given opportunities and allowed to participate. Because let's not forget that for thousands of years there's been a particular gender relation, and for like the last 100 or so people have tried to change that, and can we really be sure that they've actually changed it that much for that short period of time? You know, and analyses of gender relations have only really happened properly, I think, in the last 70 years, since the second sex in 1949, and then subsequent waves of feminism afterwards, which have tried to better analyse what it is that we do and how we behave as groups of people towards each other. This is a really complicated subject. It's probably not the best idea for a more complex Let's Play, even if it's a Let's Play where I have come top of my friend's leaderboard and certainly ground Matthew Cox into the dust. But I suppose it's really difficult to think of a way to sum things up. There's a quote from Madonna, which comes from a Madonna song that I don't even know because I don't know Madonna very well. But she talks about men dressing as women or women dressing as men, and how it's actually fine for a lady to cut her hair short and wear jeans, and that's not embarrassing for her in the same way that it is embarrassing for a guy to wear a dress, apparently. I've worn a dress for fun once and I didn't actually feel that embarrassed, not any more than when I've done a bunch of other things. But that's because I don't consider the way that a woman looks to be embarrassing, or the concept of a woman to be embarrassing. And maybe it's worth considering what you consider women to do, or what you consider them to be, and whether you actually have an opinion of that as being in some way negative. And I think when people start to ask themselves these questions, they're surprised by some of the answers. I think that's the best I can do for this right now. I'm going to try and do the next Let's Play, which could come tomorrow or sometime later, on some elements of science that really matter to me, and scientific study and education. But for now, I'm sorry for my terrible introduction to feminism. I'm quite chuffed to come this high when I did terribly today, and I don't know what time or date it is when you're watching this. It was, of course, the 24th of September, but the great thing about media like this is once we write something down, once we record it, we can spread our ideas through time and space. So it's certainly worth looking at other ideas about feminism that have spread through time and space, more recently and in the past. And I'd particularly recommend checking out on the internet, which you must be on right now, Everyday Sexism and Feminist Frequency. And I've talked a lot and you've looked at a scoreboard, and if you've got this far, thanks very much. Bye.